In this lesson, I'll demonstrate how to create an AWS EC2 instance preloaded with Ignition Cloud Edition. Before I get started with the EC2 instance, I need to create a network, or VPC, in AWS for the instance to reside in. This allows me to configure the isolated part of the AWS cloud where my instance is so that I can control who has access to it and ensure that I have access myself. Within the VPC service in AWS, I'll click Create VPC. If I were to select VPC only, I'd have to go and manually create each other component of the network to fit my needs. This gives me ultimate control over the network and lets me customize it to my liking. However, to keep this lesson brief, I'm going to choose the VPC and More option, as this will automatically create public and private subnets, routing tables, and an internet gateway so that I can quickly connect to my instance. Check out AWS's documentation to learn more about networking resources in AWS. I'll quickly name the resources in this VPC so that they reflect what I intend to use them for and they're easier to identify. Then I'll leave the rest of the options at the default and click Create VPC. But just know that this network can be configured differently. Now that I have a VPC for my Ignition installation, I need to subscribe to the Ignition Cloud Edition Marketplace listing. I'll navigate to the AWS Marketplace subscription service and then click Manage Subscriptions. Next, I'll click Discover Products. And now I can search for Ignition. Once Ignition Cloud Edition shows up, I'll click it to go to the product page. The product page contains an overview of Ignition Cloud Edition, pricing information to calculate costs, and a link to the end user license agreement, as well as information about support. I'll go ahead and click Continue to subscribe. In order to subscribe, I'll need to accept the terms, and then once subscribed, I can continue to configuration. The fulfillment option is going to be a 64-bit AMI. AMIs are templates that contain operating systems and applications for instantiating an EC2 instance. This AMI is going to let me create an EC2 instance running Ubuntu with Cloud Edition preloaded on it. I also have the option of selecting a specific Ignition version, and then I can choose my AWS region that I want to deploy in. I'm happy with this window, so I'll go ahead and continue to launch. There are a couple options for launching the software. I'm going to choose Launch through EC2 to be taken to the EC2 console to create my instance. This form will let me start configuring my instance. First, I'll give my instance a name. And we can see that the new Cloud Edition AMI is already selected for us thanks to the subscription page. Choosing the correct instance type is going to depend on the needs of your application, and you can change that through this dropdown. But I'm going to keep mine at the default selection. If you've created a key pair within AWS, you can use it to securely connect to your instance, or you can proceed without one. Click Edit to the right of Network Settings to make sure these settings are correct. I want to change my VPC to the one I just created. I'll put this in my public subnet 1. And I want to enable auto-assign public IP. I'll let it create a security group. I'll leave the default name and description. And luckily for me, it's already created inbound security group rules. If you're using your own security group, make sure that you have the proper rules set up to access your instance. The source type dropdown lets me configure the IP addresses that can access this port. I'm just going to leave this at the default so that all IP addresses can access it, but I'd highly recommend setting this up to only allow connections from IP addresses you know and trust. Under Configure Storage, I can see the volumes that are associated with my instance and how much data they can store. The root volume is for the operating system data, and this EBS volume here is for the Ignition data. On first startup, the AMI is going to automatically link the Ignition data folder to this volume for you. Despite this button, you can't actually start up with just a root volume. If you delete this, AWS will create and attach one for you anyways. If I expand Advanced Details, this allows me to specify even more options for this instance, such as recovery options, what the instance does when it stops, and down at the bottom I can add scripts to the user data field if I wanted to insert some commands for the instance to run when it's created. I'm going to leave everything else at default, and then I'll click Launch Instance on the right. Once the instance is running and the status checks are complete, I can click it for more information. I want to find the public IPv4 address or public DNS record, which will be on the Details tab or the Networking tab. I can copy that, and I'll open a new tab and paste it. Normally, the default ignition port of a standard install would be port 8088, but the AMI is configured to start up with port 80, so I'll add that and hit enter. If you're using SSL, the Cloud Edition port will be 443 instead of 8043. The commissioning phase for Cloud Edition is shorter and will only prompt you for the admin username and password, so I'll create a user real quick. Once it's done starting up, you can see that I now have my own Cloud Edition installation. Once you have your network carefully set up to be as secure as it can be while still providing the proper access, Ignition Cloud Edition can quickly and easily be set up.